Hello class. This week we'll be doing some career exploration, and in the process of exploring careers you will take a personality assessment. The personality assessment that you will be taking is a Myers-Briggs type indicator, and with that assessment you'll be provided a 4-letter personality type, and that basically will tell you what your preferences are, what your personality preferences are. In order to better understand those results you will receive, we are going to overview what exactly the Myers-Briggs is and where it came from and how it developed, and what each one of those letters means. So the history of the Myers-Briggs, abbreviated MBTI, it was developed by Isabel Briggs Myers and her mother, Catherine Briggs. A lot of the background from this comes from Jung's 1923 theory of psychological types. It basically overviews different personality types and more of the additional details that we'll get into further in this presentation. Some of the uses of the MBTI are to make individuals more self-aware, help with career development, which is what we are using it for. They are used for team building, academic counseling, relationship counseling, as well as dealing with conflict. MBTI can also help you understand yourself and your behavior, and understand your preferences and how they relate to your behavior as well. It'll also allow you to appreciate others and their contributions, so it'll allow you to understand strengths and weaknesses within yourself as well as others. And it can make you have a better use of understanding the differences between yourself and others, and how your preferences play into all of that. So, what does the MBTI do? It identifies preferences, not skills. It opens possibilities. It does not limit options. And something to understand is that all preferences are valuable, so just because you land in one area does not mean that you're less than another. And also something to understand is that all preferences can be used by each person. So just because you are stronger in one area does not mean you do not have the ability to have the preferences of another area. So throughout this assignment, I hope you all find more self-awareness in order to be able to better communicate, be able to better react to change, better mitigate conflicts and situations that may arise, and also find out the preferences within your personality in order to become a better leader, should that be something that you want to pursue. So the personality types will typically allow you to better understand the inborn tendencies within yourself. It'll allow you to understand your comfort zone and your typical habits, and it also allows you to recognize patterns and be able to change and adapt based off the preferences within your personality. And they'll also help you allow and understand how your preferences relate to stress, conflict, and change. So one thing to understand regarding the Myers-Briggs is that these are preferences, these are not skills. So to better understand that, what I want you to do is this little task, this exercise. Write your name on a piece of paper. Now write it again with your other hand. Now as you can see, you were able to write your name with both hands, but it's with your preferred hand that you were able to do that task more easily. The same thing applies to the Myers-Briggs personality assessment. Just because your assessment may tell you that your preference is in one area does not mean that you do not exhibit characteristics in the other. This just simply means that that is your preference, so that's where you're going to have more strengths with, but that does not just limit you to that one area. So with the MBTI, it's about preference. These things are not concrete, specific types of personality, and people will have preferences for various types, but they have ability in all types. So the various preferences or different areas within the Myers-Briggs, you will have extrovert and introvert, sensing and intuitive, thinking and feeling, as well as judging and perceiving. So some of the terms, so these are the common misconceptions. So just because someone's extrovert does not mean that they're talkative or loud. Just because someone is introvert does not mean that they're shy or inhibited. Just because somebody's feeling does not necessarily mean that they're emotional. Just as the same way as if somebody has a preference in judging does not mean that they're judgmental. And the same goes with perceiving. That does not mean that you're perceptive necessarily. So with the extrovert and the introvert, this is basically where you'll get your energy. This is how you get and use your energy, okay? So more details on the extrovert and introvert. People who are extroverts are people who are active, people who land more in the spectrum of liking to talk, and these are people who like to take initiative. They're act first, think later type of individuals. They enjoy a wide variety and change in people and relationships, and they're usually very approachable, and they like to develop ideas through discussion. Now, people on the other side who are introverts, they're going to be the ones who have typically exhibit thoughts, feelings, and writing. They're going to be on the internal world. So they like to think and reflect first before they act, and they usually like to take time aside to themselves in order to recharge, and they have a preference to one-on-one relationships or conversations, and they're great listeners and enjoy focusing on a project. Sensing and intuitive. This preference identifies how you take in information. They're sensing and intuitive. The sensing are all about the facts, the real and tangible, the now. They carefully think out their conclusions. They live in the present. They do something rather than think about doing something. And they want to start from the facts and then grow out into the big picture. Fantasy is a dirty word for them because they're the ones who want to actually do the things that others fantasize about. And they solve problems by working through facts until they understand the problem. On the other side, with intuitive, they're the ones who have the possibilities. They think about the inspirations and the future. They use personal feelings to make their decisions. They're comfortable with fuzzy data. They invent new possibilities, and that's something that comes automatic for them. They solve problems by leaping between different ideas and possibilities. And they can sometimes think so much about new possibilities that they never look at how to actually make them a reality. The thinking and the feeling is how do you make your decisions. So on the thinking side, you have your decisions that you make through logic and truth. These These individuals are typically going to enjoy technical and scientific fields where logic is important. They focus on tasks, provide objective and critical analysis. They notice inconsistencies, and they believe telling the truth is more important than being tactful. On the feeling side, the decisions are through emotions. They follow their hunch to make quick conclusions, sensitive to others' feelings. They have a people or communications orientation, and they sometimes experience others as they're experienced by others as too idealistic, mushy, or indirect. And they look for what is important to others and express concerns for others as well. Your judging and perceiving is going to be how do you organize your life. So the judging is going to be planned, orderly. They reach closure quickly. They get things done. They're punctual. They like to use a list, and they like to make plans. There's a lot of structure and order within their preference, and they work best and avoid stress when keeping ahead of deadlines, and not too much time is given when it comes to information at one time. The perceiving preference is typically going to be flexible, spontaneous, and like to stay open. They live for the moment. They work well under pressure and deadlines, typically fall under the creative spectrum, able to multitask and avoid commitments because it interferes with their flexibility. So what can you do with the information that you gather from the MBTI? It'll allow you to use your natural strengths to your best advantage. Also understand that you can't do everything well. You want to identify your areas for improvement and appreciate the differences in others, and also identify others who can help you be successful and play off of your preferences within your own personality. What you should not do with the MBTI is measure skills. Do not use it to predict success or failure, and you should never use this to assign jobs for certain individuals. You should not use this to avoid certain activities, and you should not use this to excuse inexcusable behavior. And this is not also well to be used within performance reviews.